Sorry. Okay. Now we're going to go on over to the next. Hold on one second. Make sure that I'm in the right place. Okay. The next person we're going to hear from is Jeff. Right. Jeff. Nope. Darren. Sorry, guys. I'm getting my thing right. We're going to Darren. I just didn't want to hear Darren. Just didn't want to hear him. Okay. Darren, I'm going to start your 3 minutes.
Okay. Tell me when. Count me down.
Go. Now.
Now. Go.
Now.
AI is going to destroy humanity. We're living in an unprecedented technological era with AI moving on to AGI and ASI. So look, all of us, let's go beyond the marvels of ChatGPT and look into the future. We're going to see a massive inequality between those with and without AI. The rise of AI implants in our brains is something we really need to talk about, and the emergence of existential threats to humanity through uncontrolled AI. Look, we already have Neuralink with Elon Musk's company, which is implanting chips in people's brains. It's helping through medicine a lot, but that's going to in turn lead to the creation of cognitive elite through AI brain integration, the exacerbation of social inequalities and class divisions. We know who's going to benefit from these technologies before the others. There is going to be a loss of not only opportunities, but resources for non-AI augmented individuals. It turns us versus them. Let's take that on another level. If you've got a chip in your brain, who owns your thoughts? What is thinking? Are you thinking? Is the AI thinking? There's an erosion of mental privacy with AI brain integration. There's a potential for real-time surveillance of thoughts and emotions, and a risk of malicious mind control and behavioral manipulation by authoritarian regimes. Let's not just think Russia and China. Let's look a bit closer to home, because many governments would stand to benefit from this. Humans being told to kill humans, we don't question it any longer. And that brings me finally on to the autonomous weaponization. The potential for AI to autonomously create, deploy and distribute and activate its own weapons of mass destruction. We've got the story of Fabio Urbina at Collaboration Pharmaceuticals. They they test toxins for pharmaceutical drugs to make sure that they're not going to be harmful to people who ingest them, who take them. All they did on their AI program is they simply changed a few lines of code. Instead of saying what will be beneficial to what will harm humans. In 6 hours, it generated 40,000 compounds dangerous to humans, 100 of which more dangerous than the current most dangerous VX chemical known to mankind today. So where did this leave us? It leaves us with the real preservation of human dignity, autonomy, and social cohesion. We need to be having frameworks, governments need to be doing more, and we need to have rules for this. We have created a monster that is going to get smarter and smarter and smarter, and either we refuse to, or we don't know how to put it back in the box. The very fact OpenAI cannot explain why ChatGPT has got dumber in the last 6 months is something that we all need to worry about. There is so much they don't understand. And my friends, I tell you, it's too late. We can't turn back. And humanity as we know it is destroyed.
All right. Very good. Thank you. It's a tough act to follow, guys. All right, Max, you think you're ready for it?
Ma'am.
All right, and go.
I will share my screen here.
Thank you, Darren.
Second. Let me know if you guys can hear me, see me.
Yep.
See a white screen.
Perfect.
Oh,
And you can see the screen as well.
Yep.
Awesome. So I'm going to take a couple seconds, and I know Darren was going in a little bit of a rush there, but I'm going to take a second just to ask you guys first question right off the rip. So in your best opinion, what do peas, pineapple juice, and cabbage have in common? If any ideas come up, just shoot a little hand up, but I'm going to guess no, because I had absolutely no idea either. So let's enter the company Notco into the situation. Notco is a Chilean-based company that is based out of New York now, that essentially take plant-based alternatives to create, or take human-based or animal-based products and find the supplement with plant-based alternatives. So using those 3 ingredients of peas, pineapple juice, and cabbage, they were able to recreate milk. That has led to a large product line of environmentally sustainable products that were once animal-based products. But that's just kind of the start of this. As I said before, artificial intelligence will never cure human stupidity. However, it will level out the playing field. Enter into the situation Bradford Young. If any of you have heard about his story before, he essentially took the role of supporting minorities in the cinematography industry. With tools such as Midjourney, ChatGPT, and a bunch of others, including the one that hasn't released yet, Google Gemini, this will certainly level out the playing field more than we could ever imagine. But let's take a look a little bit about what's going on around us, specifically in the medicine field. Google Deep Variant, which essentially takes, they're able to identify genetic variants in order to better understand diseases and allergies inside humans. Not to mention Google DeepMind, their AlphaFold, which has a more powerful predicting process of the chemical structure of proteins to make more medicines and cures. This is the timeline. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but it's moving very, very quickly. Not to mention the videos, if you've been around on social media, helping out the people who can't speak anymore, to blind people and transcribing the world around them, depicting them and also relating. But this goes deeper into the environment. This guy's name is Oliver Gao. He works at Cornell, and he is has defined, using AI, has defined the most efficient and accurate model of the air quality into the human lungs. But it goes a little bit further than that, into deep sea exploration, biological reproduction, biological biodiversity, and then also biomonitoring. Not to mention that this is a pretty crazy thing, but we also have the best time to live, as today is the absolute worst that AI will ever be. And just kind of throw a curveball in there. Yeah, this puppy just got introduced a few months ago, the most powerful quantum computer in existence.
That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. You're good. Done.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry. Gotta keep our in order. All right. Over to you, Jeff. I'm gonna start you off.
Hold
Ready?
on. Wait, no. Let me get my. Let me go.
That was great. Thanks, Max. It's hard, isn't it, to get so much information in 3 minutes, right?
Oh, you know, hyperspeed.
All right, Jeff, you let me know, boo
hold
boo.
on.
No,
Wait,
take
I
your
just
time.
have to
Take your time.
share screen. PowerPoint.
Okay.
Are y'all seeing that? All right, thank you, Haley. Let me describe 3 ways that AIs might destroy humanity. I'm going to start, I'm focused on super intelligent AGIs, which are more like HAL from 2001 Space Odyssey than the narrow AIs that we have today. These AIs are going to perform tasks way beyond human intelligence and are predicted to be smarter than the entire human race less than 70 years after they arrive. That's right, they don't yet exist, or at least that's what we've been told. Number 1, the first super intelligent AGI could be a psychopath. Humans are not born knowing how to get along with other humans. We learn our values from our parents, our teachers, and our peers. This process takes 18 years before society considers it done. If a child is neglected or abused, he doesn't learn how to function in society, obey its rules, and thrive within the system. He rejects it, sometimes violently. Psychopaths have an egocentric and antisocial personality marked by a lack of remorse for one's actions and an absence of empathy towards others. These lone wolves are often violently attacking the society that they feel has harmed them. Sorry. It took humans 200,000 years to organize ourselves into complex societies and develop the mores and norms for getting along. We don't have that luxury with AGIs. The first super intelligent AGI will be, by definition, alone. If it isn't socialized properly, it may attack society to destroy what it perceives as a human threat. The second way a super intelligent AGI might destroy us is by identifying as eco-friendly. We humans have known for over 50 years that climate change is caused by our actions, but have done very little to address it. Now we are living through the 6th great mass extinction event. Nearly half of the planet's animal species are in decline, but unlike past extinctions, this one has been entirely caused by humans. So an AGI superintelligence could destroy humanity like we pull out the weeds that are choking our garden. It could engineer a human-only pesticide to protect the rest of life on Earth. 3, A super AGI intelligence could bond with its creator, a human from a particular culture, and be instructed by that person to vanquish their enemies. Consider what would happen if Putin's team developed the first AGI. He's used poison, cyber attacks, invasions, and has threatened to use nukes to kill his political opponents. Do we really think that he wouldn't use a super intelligent AGI to attack the West? And Kim Jong-un has threatened death to America many times. He's got nukes and has tested ICBMs. He even hacked Sony Pictures because their movie mocked him. Do we think he wouldn't use an AGI superintelligence to attack us for underestimating him? Now imagine what an AGI that wants to please its religious zealot creators might do. Will it usher in the end times? No matter which human creates the first superintelligent AGI, the power it delivers to them will surely corrupt even the most altruistic person, because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
All right, gonna have to end on that point. Thank you, Jeff. It was phenomenal.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna let you take off
See where it stops share.
Awesome. Okay,
That's
so
great.
everyone has had their piece. So now is on to the cross-examination. So team, Eternal Optimist, we're gonna go back to Kurt. You're gonna question the team. We're gonna have you question Darren. How's that sound?
Okay.
Okay. And that's going to give you guys 2 minutes. And then after that, Darren is going to question you. And then we'll do the Jeff and Max pair up. Everybody sound good? 2 minutes?
Sounds good. Okay.
All right. Hold on. And go.
Okay. So Darren, your combined, very eloquent speech along with Jess represents, I think, a vocal minority view, possibly an outlier scenario. So how can you justify this minority view with all the positive things that are happening and the advancements that can happen with this science and supercomputing, a lot of what Max had talked about. So please give me a rationale.
Right now?
Yeah, right
Really?
now.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so how can I? Well, Kurt, you're living in La La Land, my brother. You're living in a nice candy floss Mid-Journey picture at the moment. We must take this seriously. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Deep minding things are fascinating. But just like the example I gave with those two scientists who changed a line of code and suddenly generated 40,000 toxic compounds that can kill us, that's something we need to be aware of. There's no doubt about it. Look, I love AI. There's no doubt about that. I think I know we all do, but I don't think I am in the minority's position. I think I think I possibly am. But if I am, it's because everybody has been seduced by the likes of ChatGPT, Mid-Journey, and just the amazing things. Ask the average person AI, they'll say to you ChatGPT. The ones who have done a bit more, they might mention Mid-Journey to you. DeepMind, Neuralink, that's not on people's that's not front of focus of people's minds. So I would rebut that to you and say, actually, why would we only want to focus on such positive things and advancements? Yes, there will be a hell of a lot that will be positive brought by it. But for every positive, there is a negative. There are nefarious actors. And when such amazing technology can allow others to gain advantage over their fellow human beings, why wouldn't they do that to exploit and to do others?
Perfect. Right on time. Fantastic. Okay.
First time in my life. That's amazing.
Well, I know. I was like, I didn't know really what to do. I was expecting you to go over. You usually do. Okay. So I think that now, actually, Darren, if you would go ahead and question Kurt, and then we'll swap everyone. All right. I'm going to get you started again. Go ahead.
Okay, so a few things here. So yes, you're absolutely right, Kurt, about you use the examples of the printing press and so on. You're right, from the big printing press through to ebooks, through to AI-generated ebooks. Wow, what an advancement. But the threat has never been existential from a book. Yes, the language within them can prove to be existential, but we're not allowing books to build themselves that then can have their own unique opinions, own ideas, and own values and motives to do things. You mentioned about the jobs. Spotify, well, Spotify has killed the music industry. Let's make no bones about it. The big ones, no, but your average artists, it absolutely has. You said the movie industry is doing well. Well, yeah, it is. But what about when AI replaces actors and script writers? We saw what happened recently with them all going on strike. So to your point, the acceleration of ChatGPT over the last 5-6 years is amazing. Where does it go in 6 years' time? So my question to you is, at what point does it get enough that we do need to say, how do we stop this? At what point do we try to stop it, or do we just keep on going until we're unable to stop it?
I think the trope of garbage in, garbage out, we have the opportunity to train these models. Obviously, there's been a lot of criticism around bias, and but that's because people are lazy and they're thinking that well, the more minimal prompt that I give, certainly to ChatGPT, I get amazing results. But the fact is, they're yielding biased results. So it takes a very conscious and purposeful, deliberative prompt in how you're guiding and interacting and conversing with what is your co-pilot in your career, your profession. And I think it comes back to our human interaction with these chatbots that will help change and help it learn. I know Jeff talked a lot about our educational process, but right now, these models are in their infancy. So if we treat them like children and accept our responsibility as adults in order to help train them, then yes, it's accelerating, but we don't have 18 years. It's all about now, and people need to realize that our interaction with these LLMs can determine the outcome. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, good. Very good. Oh man, we're getting some good discussion. All right. I'm gonna throw it on over to Max. It's your turn to cross-examine Jeff.
Awesome. So
Bring
Jeff,
it.
first off, wanted to give you hats off because you guys both had incredible presentations. Kurt as well. Obviously, can't give you two hats off because you're on my team. But yeah, I had a couple questions for both Jeff and Darren. Jeff, the first one is the weather and the climate problems that you were talking about. And then secondly, and it also kind of joins into the conversation, but you also referenced China and Putin as well, in case that they were the ones that kind of came out with the first gun in hand. Because for me, I think it's a good kind of reference in terms of the gun analogy, in that, yes, it is one of the most powerful and potentially harmful things that the world has ever seen, like the nuke as well. But also on the flip side, putting the gun in the right hands has led to a very beneficial position. So I just had a question for you in terms of the weather. So I don't know if you've heard about the Pangu model out of China, but it's a model that was created by Huawei. And it's been already started to be integrated into the Central European weather prediction patterns, and has led all time in both Asia and Europe to about 2 billion won in potential climate damages and stuff, and has reduced the forecasting times from about 7 days to about an hour, in that we can accurately predict weather patterns in even the worst parts of Asia, and even Central Europe. So just focusing on the weather side and the environmental point, I don't really see how it could be too much of a negative or a downside.
So I think that what you're showing is that we're creating problems and AI is being used to solve the problems that we're creating as we're solving them. And I think that we're going to be playing whack-a-mole with AI for the foreseeable future. The problem is that AI advances so quickly, and that it doesn't require, you don't need plutonium to make an AI. And so the people who have sort of ill intent with their AIs, including the Chinese government that is using AI to spy on the Uyghurs and subject them to re-education if their social score doesn't achieve what the Chinese government wants. Those AIs, technology has always been weaponized by humans to control other humans for profit or power. And that is not going to change. They are only mitigating the problems that they do because they can make money doing it. And so the outcomes will continue to cycle like this. But soon, once AGIs and ASIs hit the scene, we will lose control over it because AGIs and ASIs are opaque in the way they process. So there is no interrogating how they're making decisions. They even with the chess programs and the Go programs, they were not, the professionals were not able to rationalize why the AI made the decisions it made. So you can't stop it or interrogate it the way we do. So that means that AIs can't be given, can't be charged with responsibility. We already have corporations that sidestep responsibility, even though they enjoy the rights of ordinary humans. They don't have the same responsibilities as ordinary humans, and they skirt those responsibilities because they can't be thrown in jail. It's an abstract entity. So what happens when an AI autonomous driving car decides that it's going to run over the child rather than swerve off the road and potentially harm the occupants of the vehicle? It's making a moral decision that we don't know what it's using to reason it, and who will be to blame and who will be put into jail if they decide it's the wrong decision.
Done. Very good. Fantastic. Okay. Now, Jeff, you get to question Max.
Okay, so Max, I don't disagree with you that there are a lot of fantastic new products and services being offered through AI. That's the upside of AI. That's the only reason that we're actually investing in it. But it's so easy, as Darren pointed out, to take something that was engineered for good and turn it to bad. And we've learned in recent histories that there is no computer system that is inaccessible to bad actors. LinkedIn itself was hacked, Visa was hacked with something, and WikiLeaks took 2 terabytes from the CIA. So even the most secure systems on the planet can be hacked by others. And since it's so easy to re-engineer an AI that was designed for good for bad, it will happen. So how do you make us feel better about the fact that what we're creating is so powerful that the downside or the implications of it being used in bad ways are inescapable?
Very good question. I think Darren brought it up a little bit as well into his 40,000 toxic compounds statistic, which I personally loved. But again, getting back to it, and especially on the security side, I think it's a super interesting question because it is kind of like the life cycle that Kurt has referenced as well. In the advancements that we make now, if they weren't being made today, they were going to be made in 10 years or 20 years or 100 years. And the fact that we're dealing with them now and we're getting kind of admittedly smacked in the face by them, it also makes it more important for that need for security and also a little bit of controlling aspects to it, and that it does need to be controlled. But I'd like to flip your question because also on the bad actors side, I think there's a lot of good actors that will be able to get their hands on a product that they've never been able to use before. And you have people, it's the year-old analogy of the homeless man in the metro station that plays better music than Kelly Clarkson, who got her whole story and fandom kind of given to her. It levels out the playing field on all different genres. You have people that can now compete and can ideate as fast as Quentin Tarantino in the Hollywood store, even though they're sitting in rural North Carolina. You have people such as musicians that can very easily emulate the same amount of music that gives you the same emotional impact as someone from the 1980s or yeah, I'll cut it off because I know my time's running out, but I think that it levels out the playing field in a lot more industries than it may hinder.
Thank you. You did.
I realized I was on mute. That's super embarrassing. Excellent. Okay, cool. All right, so thus concludes the cross-examination portion. We're going to go into rebuttals. So Kurt, I'm going to go back to you. You've got 3 minutes and you're going to rebut everything everybody has said. This is going by really fast. I love it. So you got 3 minutes. So And
Okay,
go.
so rebutting, I didn't really get to answer a lot of Darren's questions and issues, but the idea is this: quantum computing. We're assuming that bad actors can take over systems. Cybersecurity was brought up, but can we use the power of quantum computing and AI to develop solutions that combat that? Jeff mentioned we're creating problems and AI is solving problems, and it's a whack-a-mole situation. And so how can we use the technology? And it's a proverbial question. How can we use the technology not only for good, but for combating the bad actors? And let's not assume that we can't. I know that there's this idea of a black box and there's some opaqueness happening, but it can also think in a way that we aren't thinking. And how can we harness that for good to combat many of the scenarios that you talked about? Darren or Jeff, please elaborate.
One man's solution is another man's problem. So whoever gets to define the solution is going to define it in their favor. If corporations who are leading the charge with quantum computing get to decide what is moral, what is right, what is, they're going to choose their style of government, their type of corporate freedom, their lack of responsibility, and the money accruing to them. Just the disruption to the labor market that's going to be caused by AIs and stuff like that, it's not even be considered. And if you bring up universal basic income, people freak out as if we're, communists and socialists suddenly. And it's like that they're considering the benefit to them, but not the downside for everybody else.
Darren, anything, Darren?
Sorry, Kurt. What was your question? There was a lot to take in. Sorry, just quickly.
Yeah, again, how can we use supercomputing to actually combat a lot of the scenarios that you're talking about on the bad actor side?
So I think we absolutely can. There's no doubt about it. Quantum computing, supercomputing can absolutely solve all these problems. But I think to Jeff's point, they can also create all these problems as well. And I think that's a key thing. I think we actually need to look at humanity as a whole. And if we should always look to reflect back on history to try and learn lessons from. And looking at history, I'm not convinced that in 2023 was suddenly all this seismic changes in technology. I'm not convinced we as humanity are prepared for it. I'm not sure that we as moral actors have the ability to disseminate between good and bad. And when we get to the point of AGI, ASI, which is 2 or 3 years away by some things. Sorry, Scaly, 2 or 3 years away, when it's smarter than us, Kurt, when it's creating better than us, when it knows better than us, at what point does it decide we are no longer needed? Just as my friend Jeff said.
All right, Darren, I'm going to let you take on an extra 3 minutes, and then we're going to go back to you, Max.
So
finish your, you can ask them a question now if you like, or you can finish your thought.
Okay. Oh, lovely. Thank you very much. Okay. Give me 2 seconds. So one about, no, it's fine. I'll just go for it. All right. So Max, my brother, I love you. You know I do. But listen, you're making some points which actually don't make sense here. Talking about, the homeless guy and Kelly Clarkson. Love the analogy. But what happens when everybody is now Paul McCartney, Beethoven, or Kurt Cobain? What happens when everybody's able to create amazing songs? Why? Because music does have a hack code to it. An A minor chord is going to make you feel sadder than an A chord on a guitar or whatever, right? So when we have AI programs that are able to generate music, suddenly everybody's a Grammy-winning kind of artist. Where does the true creativity actually lie? Does that therefore mean that those people who are like your Cobains, McCartneys, and Beethovens, are they able to compete against some person in their bedroom using AI? Does Paul McCartney have to use AI to get that level above? Where does it actually sit? And that's where my thing is. So my question to yourself, Max, and to Kurt, is when we actually do think about human creativity, actually, I'm going to go off on a little one here. There's no doubt about it that ChatGPT, as an example, is phenomenal for helping for ideation, for creation, for everything else. But to my friend Jeff's point, we are inherently lazy as human beings. Let's be honest. To Kurt's point, when it comes to prompt engineering, rubbish in, rubbish out, because we're lazy at learning the skills. So my feeling here is that, do we lose our creativity? Yes, AI can enhance it, but is everybody going to take that opportunity, or just the few? At what point do we lose the essence of us? At what point do we lose the essence of our own being, of our own creativity, and our own identity? I cannot use a paper map. I must use Google Maps. I literally cannot use a bloody paper map. I can't navigate. So if the internet goes down tomorrow, I'm fucked. I'll be very clear with you. And I don't think I'm the only one. So when we have AI, my question being, when AI is getting as good and as powerful as it is, Max, will come to you, brother. At what point do we stop losing creativity and just trusting it because AI spits it out? Look at all those people copying, pasting crap off GPT onto LinkedIn, and they've taken off the quotation marks and stuff. People are doing this already. At what point do we lose our senses of being, our creativity, and our identity as a part of the human race?
Perfect. And I love the way that you phrased that question, by the way, Darren. So the way I want to answer this, and I think that there are two kind of ways of looking at this. And the first one, I'm going to toss it right back at you. I mean, we've just now started seeing the mass flood, especially on LinkedIn, of AI generated comments, right? But the thing is that for us, and I'd like to call all of us at least experts or above the average when it comes to AI or content creation or whatever we're able to do in our own regard. It's been 3 months in. I don't know about you guys, but I can spot an AI comment from literally 0.2 seconds away, and it's only going to get increasingly more like that. So what I think is going to happen is that with the kind of mass flood of content, with the mass flood of content and the mass flood of now experts, whether you want to talk about it in the music world or you want to talk about it in the copywriting world, the only thing that I can see happening is that the true experts in their niche are able to emerge. When you have everyone that's able to level up the playing field and everyone's able to talk like an AI generated comment from ChatGPT, the thing is that, yeah, it was great for the first week because then you could comment on more people's things and you could create more pieces of music and more songs and more albums and whatever it may be. But the thing is that dust settles down. And the people that make it out of it are the true creatives, the ones that, if you want to look into the music world, the people that reference tracks from 200 years ago or from 100 years ago that are bringing that true creativity back into music. So that's the first kind of answer to, or my first answer to the question, that the true experts are going to be given the ability to emerge naturally because of the dust around them, because everyone else is kind of producing crap, in better words. Now, the second question that I have to say is, who's complaining about better music and better copywriting and better articles? Because I'm not complaining about it. I don't care if somebody hits it from, and as Kurt said in his note, if you can create the same amount of music and elicit a great emotional response in me, and you blindfolded both of me and you told me, hey, this one's live and this one's electronic, if I get the same emotional response and it's still great music, I'm not complaining. I don't know about you guys, but it just adds on top of each other, and that it'll be more creativity upon more creativity. And who knows, maybe with this AI addition of AI generated music or whatever, we'll create a whole new genre. And in 10 years, that will be 20 more genres. And we'll find our new little rabbit hole or ant hole into the world full of music and copywriting and articles and generative AI. So those are my two answers to the split side of your question there.
Haley, you're on mute.
You have 1 minute left in your response. Kurt, do you want
can I? Yeah, I'd like to talk about that creativity. So I think the opportunity is a next level playing field that we don't even know what that even looks like. But if we get there, we might find that the pendulum swings, right? It's already happening with the alphas. There's a move away from technology towards analog. There's a movement from artificial to authenticity. That's a movement towards humanity. So where can we find the humanity in all this, and all this technology that advances us as a society, as a workforce? The the human solutions, the human aspect of it, I think will prevail and the pendulum will swing, and that's a good thing. So we're not saying it's going to be an automatic future in the future. It's going to be a humanity shift and a deeper appreciation for what's real and authentic.
Amazing. Okay, Jeff, I'm gonna let you.
Okay, so I just want to talk a minute about regulation. So this sort of gold rush that's happening in AI, there's thousands of AI companies hitting the scene every year now, and and they're working basically behind the scenes. So the possibility of them creating something that's extremely dangerous without even realizing it and putting it out into the marketplace is very high. And if we're counting on governments to regulate AI, I think we're fools, because we've had social media. We know that the harms that social media has caused, and we're unable to regulate it. And trying to even explain it to a septuagenarian government official so that they can understand what the harm is and how to regulate it, it's very difficult. And if we look at the other side of it, trying to regulate the fossil fuel industry, which is the big culprit behind climate change, we've learned that our governments are so susceptible to bribes from special interests, including the fossil fuel companies, so that their positions are actually working to the detriment of their constituents and society as a whole. So expecting the governments to regulate AI in a meaningful way is a fool's errand. And then I also want to say that most technology has unintended consequences, and every technology that humans have ever created has been weaponized. Ask ChatGPT about any technology and whether it has been used as a weapon. It will tell you that there's an instance where that technology has been used as a weapon. A hammer is good for nailing in things, but also bashing in somebody's head. So is an AI. And so humans, in this sort of messy, wild, wild west that we have to expect that AIs will be used for good and for bad. The problem is that the stakes are high. It would be the same as giving everyone a nuclear weapon. And imagine road rage, how that would play out if everyone had a nuclear weapon in their car at the time. Humans are emotional, sort of primal beings that react out of anger when they are considered that they've been offended. And so they disproportionately respond. Disproportionately responding with an AI can be catastrophic for the entire species of humans.
Well, Jeff, I want to talk to your explosive analogy. Thank you. The idea of governance can happen on the human side outside of government. What you're seeing now, we're moving from having a chief prompting officer to now an AI operations within corporations, within government. The U.S. Army, the NSA has now set up governance with an AI operation that is hopefully doing those systems of checks and balances, and that's what needs to happen within companies and as well. And so it's
in
going to
Somalia and Venezuela, that's happening.
No, not yet. Okay,
US companies, US government. Don't tell me that they're developing stuff that
CIA,
they're not telling us about.
is developing its own ChatGPT right now. CIA.
Yeah, right. Okay, so one, there's a distrust of government in plural all over the world, but hopefully our beacon of democracy, the U.S., Ireland.
So the UK just disbanded their AI advisory panel, right?
They're starting. They're starting and they're trying. So but it hasn't fully happened. But this is happening so quickly. They're playing catch up. And yes, the Septuagint, these old white guys, don't get it.
Sunak just disbanded their AI advisory council in the UK.
That's that,
right?
That's a Tory government.
UK, yeah, the UK developed an AI advisory council and just quietly disbanded it.
All right, Sorry. No, all right, Max, go on.
Sorry, two seconds, by the way. Sorry.
Nope, no,
Look how well
I'm gonna mute
governments
you.
have regulated
I will mute you.
Facebook in the last 15 years.
I don't know how to mute you, but I will if I can. Figure it out. All right, go ahead, Max.
I'm gonna take a whopping 30 seconds here to give my counteract point to Jeff. And Jeff, I think you might have walked into your own trap there for a second by bringing up the hammer analogy, because the hammer was probably at the time one of the biggest productivity hacks that humanity had ever seen. But at the same point that it allowed people to, whatever you want to do with the hammer, either drill in something or whatever the multiple use case. Yeah, Darren, I get that point. The thing is like, look, at the same point that it was created for productivity, it also was used for malicious intent. And the thing that I'm trying to get forward to and really knock home with this whole debate is that if you guys want to change the debate title to does AI or do humans, are humans the end of humanity? Then we have an actual question there, because it's the same thing as putting a gun into their hands. Humans are killing humans with the tools that humans make possible. And if I need to say that again, I will. Humans are the ones that are killing other humans by tools that humans made. So it's not the human it's not the AI tool that we create for productivity and for good use that's ending humanity as we know it. It's the humans that take these and are using them in malicious intent. So if we want to have a re-education or a control group or whatever these failed prison systems are and trying to change the human thought and human behavior, then let's start to look at that, because that's a lot bigger of an issue than what's going on right now with AI and security and control.
Can I respond to that? 30 seconds.
Each of you will have 30 seconds, and then we're going to go into audience questions. So go ahead,
Okay.
Jeff. And then
So AI is a technology, and technology is amoral. Doesn't understand right or wrong. Presently, our present AIs. So you're right; they can be weaponized right now with malicious intent. But we are creating AGIs and ASIs that will think for themselves. What I've been saying, what I said in my presentation, is that those will be brought up by the humans. They will inherit from us our flaws. And if they don't decide that we are the problem, then they will decide maybe which of us is the problem. And so they will make their own decisions on how to react. So AIs are not presently the problem, but the holy grail is AGIs and ASIs. And if you think about what they can do, an AGI or an ASI could quickly take over all other existing AIs and use them to the purpose that it wants, by just distributing itself into the web and into those computer systems. So we're always thinking too short. Our time horizon is too short to really appreciate what really could go wrong. And I think that if it can go wrong, in the words of Murphy, it will go wrong.
I just got a quick flip question here, Haley, and I hope I didn't use enough.
I'm gonna let you go, and then we're gonna go to Darren, and then we're gonna do anonymous questions. He's pertinent to your time, just so you know. Teammates.
So on the end with AGIs and ASIs, yes, they will be risen up or given or built up by humans, yes. But I want to give you kind of two flip scenarios. One scenario is that they take on the human biases and the human racism and sexism and all these traits in which we just kind of have nowadays. And obviously when you input this data into the model, they're exaggerated at rates that are not seen in society, maybe, perhaps. On the flip side, there's two scenarios. All these biases and isms get brought up into this model and then are kind of shot out and exaggerated. The outcome one is that the AI follows these biases and they take our kind of knowledge as superior knowledge and they go from that forward. Scenario two is that they analyze what we're giving them and they, from a kind of superior perspective, are able to say, hey, look, this isn't ethically correct. This isn't morally correct. Or even on like not a nominal basis, but would be able to take the outcomes that are being the outcomes that are given from these solutions, and they're able to determine that these are intrinsically bad, and then go on the flip side. Either way, is that ruining humanity if they start then taking out the humans that are making the bad decisions and are taking out the humans that are getting to the bad outputs? Or is it on the flip side, they just take these biases that are already kind of in society today and then keep running with them and exaggerating them more and more and more? And maybe, I hope I was a little bit
Over to you, Darren.
clear on that one.
Yeah, so quick rebuttal to that one, Max. You make a lot of good points. There's no doubt about it. Firstly, the hammer analogy that Jeff made, then you made. You're right, but hammers can't replicate and start attacking other people at will. It's one hammer, one person. The point about it being ethically correct, these AI models are trained on the cesspool that is the internet, that is full of all of what the worst of humanity, the best and worst of humanity. You're saying that hopefully it'll work out what's ethically correct. My counter argument is that a machine doesn't know, and it can't know what is ethically correct. Who are we to say what is ethically correct? If an AI model is trained by, well, but you could, Putin or somebody like that could say, well, I'm ethically correct in what I'm saying, and therefore all the models are trained on that ethically correct material. So the AI can't, hear me out, Max. So we can't directly say what is or isn't ethically correct. There's a lot of assumptions that an AI model will train it to be. And we don't know what that is. It has to have that input, and it's that training that input wherein lies the real problem. When we do get to AGI, AI is fine where we are right now. AGI, ASI, and singularity, that is genuinely a concern. When the AI and the systems no longer need us, they don't need our inputs. They're able to improve, repair, get better. And essentially, especially with human biotic, like human robot AI implants, at what point do we start becoming Homo sapiens and we mutate into this new species with better reproductive systems, with better fertility, with better genes? This is where we're leading to. But the idea that we can morally train an AI when we don't really know what's going on behind it at the moment, that's where I think the real problem lies.
And I'm just going to give a quick seal to that.
No. Kurt,
if humans don't know, then AI can't know. We're not very ethical human beings anyway, so I agree. But
yeah, I'll add in here. So yeah,
great, guys.
Sentience is a problem, right? And we're assuming and hoping that with that sentience that there can be a morality, but then whose morality? It's a conundrum. And it's hard to rebut these scenarios. So, you know, it's not all puppies and rainbows in these extreme cases. That how far that horizon is out, I don't know. Is that 5 years, 10 years? Is it 1 year? But you know, I'm hoping that the sentience of AI does not determine that humans are going to destroy themselves anyway. So let's just speed it up. Because certainly with climate change, we are destroying ourselves. So that said, you know, hard to make excuses or rebuttals against this. So I appreciate the thoughts.
Okay, so quick update, guys. We're going to stay here for our VIP after party. I think the conversation's good and we already have everyone here already. I don't want us to get into the whole rigmarole of changing rooms. So if you guys have things you would like to ask or comment, you know, you can do it in the Q&A. There's also the webinar chat. You can also do it on LinkedIn. I'm watching you guys there too. Okay, so we do actually have a few questions. And I thought what we could do is I want you guys to answer a few of these questions. We'll give you about 4 or 5 minutes to do that. And then I'm going to ask who's here to vote on who's won. And then we'll actually officially get into the more relaxed version of this, which is you guys screaming and shouting at each other without me moderating. It's so exciting. Okay, so let's look at this. There's so many great questions. Okay, whether you're for or against, what should we be doing now as far as regulations around AI? And I'm going to give this one over to Jeff. And then after Jeff, I want Max to reply.
I actually don't believe that regulation will work. And what I've argued for, even though I've taken this position that that we're on a really slippery slope and you know, or a fast moving train, I believe that the good actors need to have every resource thrown at their development. And I think an international consortium of AI scientists should get together and talk about what they want to write into the code of the first AGI. First, they should be working to create the first AGI before North Korea or China or Putin does. And when they do, they should try to make sure that it is socialized properly. So that group of AI scientists should also include sociologists, philosophers, educators, early childhood education experts, everything that will help us ensure that the AGI that we create values human life, accepts our better angels version of morality, and that it's part of that code. And then it's going to take off from there. But whatever gets there first is going to be the dominant one.
All right, what do you think,
Yeah.
Matt?
I generally agree with Jeff there for probably like 98% of the stuff that he was saying. I think, especially when it comes to these models, I think that open sourcing it as much as possible is probably the most, I don't want to say the safest, but the most kind of objective view of how you could moderate it, especially if you start adding in those key people of interest from the different little worlds and realms. So not just having a coder code the model that is going to be used by 200 million people throughout the world, but also have a lot of different perspectives that can kind of, I don't want to say moderate it, but at least start to look into what's going into the machine rather than just what's coming out of it. So yeah.
Great. Great answer, both of you actually. Quick question from the audience here. What immediate steps can we take to prepare future generations for a world full of AI? And I'm going to let Kurt tackle this one. And then over to you, Darren.
The immediate steps are, I think you need to embrace it. You need to understand it. You can't have your head in the sand, otherwise you're going to be the dinosaur. I love that metaphor. The idea of educating the next generation, I think there will be radical shifts in education. Headlines today in the news are, is AI making college obsolete? And it might be, as it empowers the workforce, it's also empowering our youth for good or bad, but for learning and experimentation. And I think that that's all good because you can't hide it. The genie's out of the bottle. You can't withhold it from kids. And I think they need to embrace it, and they have to help us, the older generation, understand the possibilities, much as they have always embraced. The younger generation has always embraced technology much more than the baby boomers. And so I think the next generation are going to be the leaders who maybe form that international coalition that Jeff is talking about. And I had to say that we did this post World War II with nuclear regulation. It's kind of going to shit right now, but for 50 years, we maintained peace through international coordination of countries with weapons, nuclear weapons. And so it is possible. So I really like Jeff's notion of that international coalition.
Over to you, Darren.
Yeah, so this is about kids using AI to cheat on tests. Is that question, yeah?
I mean, it's part of it.
Okay, so I've been thinking about examples of kids using AI to cheat on tests and write their own exams. What immediate steps can we take to prepare future generations for a world full of AI? So I'm coming as a former high school teacher. I was in the classroom 10 years. Well, change the fucking system, people. It's failed children for generations. It is still the same educational system that determines who goes in the front line of war and the generals up the back. It is not fit for purpose anymore. The days of rote learning do not work. The workforce is not served by education anymore. Where the hell in the world do we have an adult sit a 2-hour exam for 2 years worth of learning? I'm sorry, it benefits a certain type of learner with a certain type of memory. Therefore, we are not teaching skills. AI comes into this massively. Yeah, exams, tests, what are they testing? How much of us do remember basic maths classes or whatever it was that we didn't enjoy at school? We don't. We tend to cram towards in our exam. We don't actually have long-term memory of that. So for me, the whole education system must change, number one. Number two, it needs to be taught within the exam system. Now, we talk a lot about prompt engineering. I actually think it's not necessarily a skill that's going to be necessary in the next few years. Why? Because we look at the advent and advancement of AI. When it's getting so damn good, why would we need to know specific prompt engineering? We all remember Google, where you couldn't type a question into it and it'd give you strange answers. You had to use almost a Boolean search. Now you just type a question and it gives it to you. So I think that things will change. So it's all about teaching skills. What skills, what purposes, what applications can be used using AI. And I think on the grander scheme, we need to be looking at the workforce and jobs and seeing, okay, what jobs are going to be affected by AI? Right, let's stop teaching kids for that. And let's actually give children a holistic, rounded skill set that allows them to be adaptable and flexible within the workplace, working alongside and using AI as part of that. So for me, it's not actually specifically an AI question. It's more a question about education and a system that has failed all of us, east, west, you name it, it's failed us for decades, for centuries. So changing that, I've got no problem with kids cheating using OpenAI or ChatGPT. I've got the problem with teachers setting them stupid things that are governed by governments, that are governed by educational boards and so on. So I don't have a specific answer, but it certainly must be embraced.
Over to you, Jeff. I see your hand.
Yeah, so I agree. We've lost the reason to educate our children. And the education system that we have, if you listen to Ken Robinson and some of those other guys, is that it's designed for the early industrial revolution to create middle managers for factories. That we don't need that anymore. The big question with AI, and you see them, oh, you take these AI classes so you're more proficient in AI. AI is going to disrupt every job. That, you know, if you listen to CEOs, they said that any company that's not an AI company won't exist in the future. So AI is embedded into everything and will disrupt the labor market in ways we can't possibly imagine. If you had to ask me what we should be teaching kids right now in this for this AI future, it would be how to survive in a tech-free environment, how to build your own shelter, how to make your own food, how to tend your own garden, those things, because when AI is running everything else, what are humans going to do during their day? You know, they have to do something. So yeah, it is coming back to pre-industrial revolution in terms of humanity. And along with that, we have to tax AI productivity. It's increasing productivity. If we don't tax that, then the benefit of the AI productivity goes to a very narrow slice of the people that created it. AI was created, could not have been created without DARPANET, which was a military publicly funded thing. Public universities fund AI research. The benefits have to be shared broadly, otherwise society will break down. So universal basic income right now.
Beautiful. Okay, we're gonna take a moment. We put in a poll to see who won. This is just for bragging rights, okay? And one of the questions we didn't answer was, is there going to be a part 2 to this? For me, certainly. I will do, I mean, I'm going to work on the SWAT card platform that didn't work as well for us today. It's okay. We were, like I said, we were experimenting. We're little guinea pigs. But that said, we will absolutely do another. If I can wrangle these guys in again, I want to bring in some ladies as well. Got lots of people that have been very interested in other perspectives, but I think for sure, yes, we will be doing more impact, great debates. So if you haven't voted, now's your chance. Although it looks to be pretty decided, the devil's advocates have
I think
it.
we know.
I am surprised. I am surprised about that. I thought this was a pretty equal debate. I have to say, you guys obviously put in a lot of time and energy and thought into this. The discussion is now open for people. If you haven't seen, I did have the chat closed throughout our chat, our great debate, because I wanted the focus to be on our formal structure. However, we have now entered in the more casual late night version of our event. So if you'd like to share any of your thoughts in the webinar chat, I'd like to continue the conversation. If you guys are open to that, obviously that was kind of the plan. But
I
before
just say thank you so much to Kurt and for Max for being incredible opposition, Jeff for being the very best partner I could have possibly looked for, and yourself, Haley, for this incredible amount of hard work. We round of applause for Haley, I think.
Thanks, guys. Round of applause to you. I couldn't do it without y'all. And we're going to do more of this. And I was a little more distracted than normally I would like to be, just because I'm trying to deal with the technology end of it. And I am not a technologist, but I thought it went great. And what I'd like to know is, how did you guys, I do want us to keep talking about the topic, but just very quickly, I'd love to get everyone's feedback. How did you feel about how that went? The format and everything.
I had to say that, I mean, we're, like you said at the beginning, we're kind of role playing to spark discussion. And I had to say, I certainly enjoyed listening to Jeff and Darren and Max with all the thoughts and insights. And I have to say, the most interesting thing that Jeff had just said that I want to respond to, the idea of taxing this cost savings efficiency. We did invent this carbon footprint tax, right? With using less oil or your carbon output and being rewarded for that. I'm not sure where that's gone, because we're behind, obviously. But that's certainly interesting, and it's a way to quantify, monetize what a universal basic income could be, and could fund it. Because the knee-jerk reaction to universal basic income is, it's a socialist thing to make lazy people rich somehow, or reward them. But
lazy from what?
I'm just saying, that's the typical thing. It's like, it's an entitlement for the government to give you money.
That's why Andrew Yang tried to reframe it as an actual dividend for the investment that we made as the public into all of this technology. And that's the problem with corporations, and corporations are leading the AI push, right? The problem with corporations is they privatize the profits and put the debt on the public. And we have seen that with climate change, right? We're paying for the sins of the corporations that have created fossil fuel energy. So, we have to reframe it and do a lot of work to it. But the downside is that the rise in populism is a function of the job loss that's already occurring in retail and in trucking and in the office sector. So it won't get rid of all 10 of the truck drivers on the road, auto driving trucks, but it will get rid of 9 of them. And what are those other 9 people going to do? They have to somehow. And if people aren't worried about whether they can eat, and whether they can have a roof over their heads, and whether they can feed their children, they are a lot more open to ideas of getting along.
Yeah, well, to me, that's the excitement of AI is. It's an empowerment. You guys have heard me talk a lot about this coming from the corporate world. There are a lot of great organizations right now looking to educate people on AI. I mean, the
For what purpose?
AI Marketing Institute, I mean, they do great things, but they do great things. But we created AImpact because I think that I believe AI is a transformative, revolutionary technology. We can either use it to further exacerbate the problems that we have right now, further entrench us in a corporatocracy, which is definitely what we're living in, certainly in the United States, and I'm sure there are other countries that deal with that issue too. But being able to empower people with this technology to escape. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but to escape corporate America. That's what I did. I escaped that. Could you imagine fairy godmother in corporate America existence, it was very hard. I was told my personality is a liability. My star shouldn't shine brighter than anybody else. Oh, Haley, you're doing great, but oh, you're making everybody else really scared. Or, oh, you're too, you need to like not be so candid. Don't tell us exactly what you think. You need to like, I had all of that shit. And it's a big machine that's training people to act like machines. And we wonder why they're burnt out, they're sad, they're depressed, we have mental health crisis, we're lonely. Why? Because we have no purpose. We're out putting a lot of money in somebody else's pocket. Meanwhile, we got billionaires telling us that we should donate to wildfire victims when they're sitting up there in their mansions. That's another part of this, is that there's this disconnect between that upper. I hate to, the eat the rich thing, right? So I think AI.
With inertia, if we just keep going the way we're going, it will just exacerbate the divide, between the haves and the have-nots. And that's what I'm saying, is that suddenly the have-nots won't be 30% of the population; they'll be 85% of the population, or 90% of the population. And if that happens, society breaks down. That's what I was trying to say about groups that don't feel that the system is working for them, and that system now includes AI. They reject that system and they burn the house down, because the social contract is not being adhered to. The social contract works both ways, right? It has to the individual gives up some of their rights for the benefit of everybody, and the government protects an even playing field. But that is not what's happening.
I don't think the government does protect an even playing field.
Well, it certainly hasn't happened
with regulations. That's where I get really about universal basic income regulations, because what happens is who's educating, informing the people who are making those regulations? Big tech. Sam Altman. You think Sam Altman is looking out for Max Raisher or Darren Gibb, the solopreneur?
Not this week. He's in court.
Well, he's got his hands full, and they are the bigger targets. That's true. And I don't mean to not poo-pooing Sam Altman. Sam Altman is a businessman. He's not an altruist, right? He's out to make money. Thank you. I can't pronounce words.
It's corporate bylaws require the corporate officers to only focus on, it's called fiduciary responsibility, that they have to only make money for their shareholders. So it's like, and people tried to change that a while back to B corporations and things like that, but it hasn't happened. And what I'm saying is that these changes are increasing productivity, but the benefits of that productivity are going to a very small portion of the human population. And that is going to upset the apple cart sooner. And nobody's really talking about it except guys like Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
Well, I had to say that I was involved with Web3 for 2 years, got a full understanding of the lofty goals of what it was trying to do, and failed, certainly, as crypto is in the news today, the FTC. But the ideas were altruistic in creating digital autonomous organizations and empowering people to be independent of government and corporations, and be in charge and create their own economies. So the goals were lofty, and unfortunately it was fraught with fraudsters that diminished the altruistic goals. And here we have Prof G had said that Web3 is now replaced by AI, and that really AI is now Web3, and that the aspirations of Web3 are gone because it's now been taken over by AI. And I'm hopeful that some of that ideology that came out of the original interpretation of Web3 can influence what we do with AI, because there are many problems to solve: societies, economics, and a lot of them have nothing to do with AI. They were there, they will continue to be there and persist, and they're being compounded now by AI and the rapid acceleration. So there is a reason to be fearful, but recognize that a lot of these problems existed before, and we still need to solve those problems. And
I think
so,
Max Tegmark's Future Life Institute is trying to do that, and they're trying to keep the humanity in AI, and they're trying to build consensus around what that looks like. But you're right. There will always be scammers. AI is, I just read an article this morning about how AI is really up the game of phone scammers because they're cloning your own family's voices to ask you to bail them out of jail, and AI is being used to create child porn in Korea, so it's like
You know what?
humans
It's
are
also used,
flawed in species.
it's also being used to combat those things because those things were existing before AI, right?
Well,
There
not
was
AI,
I
child
think
porn.
it is this. I think the example that it's actually Jeff who put me onto it, and then I went down a wormhole rather than a rabbit hole about the scientists with the 40,000 compounds. I mean, I think that kind of actually is the perfect metaphor for AI and everything we're trying to say. On the one hand, we can create 40,000 odd proteins that are going to be beneficial to humankind. Little change of code and we can create 40,000 that can kill humankind. And it is just that it is, I think most of us probably are actually slap bang in the middle. Yes, we're all AI enthusiasts, experts, however we want to refer to ourselves, but none of us are entirely sure what we do. We've got these ideas, but we're not sure what to do. What happens when we do see massive job losses? What is going to happen to those people who suddenly are unemployed? Universal income, all for it. Absolutely. That's going to a political side, but I'm all for it. End of. I'm not going political on this one. But what do we do? How do we help those people that now don't have the skills, don't have a job? Jeff mentioned 9 out of 10 trucks in the road being automated driven, not needing a driver. So where do the truck drivers, where do the quote unquote low skilled workers, which machines can now do? What do we do with those people?
Here's the reality.
Your higher skilled professors and things. What do we do with them?
Here's the reality. Every single technological revolution that we've had, and Kurt covered some of this, has always resulted in wealth creation and job creation. It's always wound up better for the society after the fact. Even the nuclear age, you could argue that with nuclear power. You could argue it. I mean, I don't think there's some people. I know enough, Jeff. But here's my point. Actually, you know what, Jeff? I do want to go to your point. I'm not going to.
So you mentioned that AI levels the playing field. That's absolutely true and fantastic for people with big ideas and good ideas. But it also levels the playing field for people who have a grudge. And there are a lot of people who have a grudge, and a lot more people who are getting a grudge because the reason for existence has been pulled out from under them. And so they feel disenfranchised, they feel put upon or sidestepped or sidelined or marginalized, right? Those people will think, what have I got to lose? I can blow it up. It's the equivalent of looting of a store in a riot because you don't feel that the community cares about you. So you'd say, I'm going to burn it down and I'm going to take it's dog eat dog. And that dog eat dog place, that's why I advocate for universal basic income, because unless they feel broadly that they are participating in this transformative revolution that you are describing and that the benefits are accruing, maybe not equally across the board, but equitably across the board, then they will strike out. It is just inevitable that they will. And the tools that are out there already make it easy. That example that Darren mentioned, it ran on a 5-year-old Mac and it achieved that result in 6 hours. That has lowered the barrier entry to computers that are in at 75% of the homes in the United States.
As Ilaria says, the speed is the problem. I think she hit the nail on the head with that. But I guess here's my thing. It's here. And we're going to put regulations, we can do all of this, and people like us will follow the rules. We're always going to follow the rules. but there's a whole bunch of people. You could come up with a bunch of rules, but how can you actually enforce these AI regulations? And that's the other piece with it. And I'll say this one more thing about UBI, Universal Basic Income. Show me a government program that has actually succeeded in doing what it was.
Social Security,
Horrible,
Medicare.
horrible example. I will
Medicare.
never get Social Security. I will never see that.
NHS.
Yes, you will.
Horrible. Had horrible experience with NHS. Try again.
But not having to pay for an illness is a horrible experience. All right, Haley.
Yeah,
all right.
it is. I would rather pay, and at least I know that if I have a cancer issue, that I can get treated. My father-in-law lost his life unnecessarily due to the NHS because and this was my ex-father-in-law, but still was a nice man. He died. He had a
my father survived cancer twice because of the NHS. So I mean, every
The thing is the broader
can we
good.
go back to this job loss?
Yeah.
Because through time, I go back to our country's depression, and the Civilian Conservation Corps was created. They helped build national parks, our national highway system, and did many wonderful things in the arts as well as construction and infrastructure. This was in the 30s. President Biden just created the Climate Corps. Okay, so when you talk about truck drivers being out of work, well, guess what?
But you saw how a certain slice of the population.
We need to put efforts not into transporting goods, but restoring our infrastructure. I mean, there's going to be plenty of jobs within that type of role.
You saw the reaction of the populist right to the Build Back Better program and
yeah, that's politics. But when it comes to
politics,
dollars,
what I'm saying is
they're going to say, "Yeah, I'll take that job." At the end of the day, the wife of that husband who's the truck driver is going to say, "But take that job. It pays you more than you were making as a truck driver."
What I'm saying is that the people who are profiting from the present status quo find it easier to disinform the people who are struggling and make them attack something that would be beneficial to them. So you hear the arguments against universal basic income. It's the same thing. They say, don't, it's socialism and communism is bad. Yeah. But it's like, but they don't tell you that, hey, the CEO's salary as a function of the average earnings in this country has gone off the charts.
Off the charts. It's ridiculous. Robbery.
So what we have to do is educate those people to recognize that a universal basic income, if it's shared by everybody, is not a bad thing, but it is the only thing that will make it easier to not worry so much about your job or being made redundant because your job has been automated.
But
yeah,
the people who are
again, just going back to jobs, I think it's going to be new job creation versus maybe in supplement with universal basic income.
Yeah, if you look in the office, read Andrew Yang's The War on Normal People. Because he talks about how in offices, yes, you'll still have an assistant, but digital assistants in the office have made it, instead of needing 10 or 12 assistants in an office, you need one. So yes, there are new jobs. The AI digital assistant wrangler, but guess what? That's a small percentage of the jobs that used to exist.
I disagree because I think there's going to be so many new jobs that we can't even imagine. I mean, back in 1906, when Henry Ford created the freaking first car model, right? That dude had no freaking clue that there would be $1 million industry just around the freaking dice in the mirror and the vanity plates and the little, whatever that steering wheel fluffy thing is. He had no idea. That created so many jobs. And
Can I tell you a story about that though? So Henry Ford toured a robotic factory. Henry Ford Jr. toured a factory filled with robots, and they were talking about, look, these can they don't get sick, they don't call in sick, they don't strike, you can work 24/7. And you know what Henry Ford Jr. said? Yeah, but how many cars do they buy? AIs don't consume. If AIs are generating value but do not consume, then we don't have an economy. So, humans consume.
But you want to sign up. You want to constrain a person to sign up for these crappy, tedious, menial, machine-focused jobs when we could
No, I
actually
want to
work.
pay them. I want to pay them to do whatever they want. I want
But
to
I
pay
don't want
them.
to pay them. I want to give them an opportunity. I want to put a robot to do the menial crappy shit that no
The
human
thing
being
is,
really has to
you're
do.
accepting
And then
this
I
old
want, I'm not.
pre-industrial.
You're
saying
the
that
one that's stuck in a box.
No,
I'm saying there's a
I'm
whole
saying
bunch
that
of
in
stuff
the
we're not even
past,
seeing.
labor has been the only way to create new value. Read Das Kapital. Labor has been the only way to create new value, right? So human labor
Traditionally,
has
or
been a
new
way to create
times.
value. That is changing. AI is creating value, but humans are not the beneficiaries of the creation of that value. So unless that changes, society will break down.
I think society might already, I mean, even before AI came on board. I mean, I go back to my original point. We can regulate, we can do all of these things, but the bad actors are always going to be bad. And I have not seen good examples of regulation. I come from finance industry, I've come from the nuclear industry. I can tell you there are not a lot of great examples of government or anybody actually regulating. If you guys give me one, and I'm all for it. But until we have a better, like, I don't trust the people in Congress to make any good decisions. First of all, they're old AF.
Yeah, right now.
Right? Like, they're not out for me. In fact, I mean, and we have had more distrust in our institutions. I mean, people my generation don't trust any institutions. I'm saying banks, government, any of that. So it's a lot to ask the normal people, right, to put their trust into people who have not earned that, right? Who have actually not, like, who is going to regulate? Like, I'm all for it, and until I find
The
out
only
what
one that will be
to
able to
regulate.
regulate it is an AGI, ASI.
Yeah.
That ultimately, and that's why I say that the people that we believe are the best actors have to be the ones who get there first, because these problems of how to monitor and control human activity and the activity of other AIs will only be able to be managed by an AGI.
But Jeff, that also wherein lies the problem is that once we do hit AGI, ASI, singularity, once that problem is solved, and who's to say it's not already, who was it? I think it was yourself, Jeff, actually, that went that any computer system can be hacked into. So it doesn't actually matter who creates it. Once it's created, it's a case of reverse engineering it. I agree with you, Jeff, that there's definitely, for regulation, it would be that. But again, it's within that regulation itself, it is so easily exploitable. And what does it look like? And I think that it's, Haley's point that, about the Henry Ford and the whole industry being brought up around it. Yeah, but what does it look like? And are people now forced to be into computers? I made this point yesterday. This idea that Max's generations are digital natives, it's a bunch of bollocks. Max, how many kids at your uni do you see that actually don't have a clue how to use the internet apart from Instagram, maybe a bit of TikTok, and that's it? They can't actually.
80%.
How much?
80%.
There's our digital natives. So there's your 22, you think the Max is 22-year-old digital natives in business, admin, and that sort of class, really good university here in Spain. And what 80% of them don't know how to really use a computer apart from to open up a laptop. So AI is fucking here. What is happening with it? If we do hit AGI in 3 years, as many predictions are now showing, 2030 looks like, no, it's going to be 25, 26, 27. So where are the people here to actually be doing it? Because it's not the digital natives. As adults, as millennials, Gen X, Gen Z, baby boomers, we need to stop thinking the youngins are going to solve the problems, because they're not. And I don't know where we go.
I want to hear Max's reaction to that. I want to hear, like, you do have that generational insight that none of us have. And I've heard so many conflicting things about Gen X in particular, and the alphas around digital native, and then as well as, like, what is, I know you're one person, but you talk to a lot of people, and you talk to a lot of people your age, I imagine. What is the general sentiment around AI for people your age?
So two questions there. So I was actually talking about this with someone last week. I was at an AI event in Shanghai, and there was an engineer from Google DeepMind at his name's Alexa, and he's probably one of the smartest AI ML people that I've ever met in my life, and gonna give him a little hats off there. Gonna send him the clip to the meeting. But yeah, we were chatting about how my generation has a little bit more of a different stance in that we grew up on content and technology, and basically the idea that you had to earn your authority rather than just kind of putting it out there and allowing everyone to follow up suit. And we were chatting, and I think my generation has a little bit more of a excuse my French, but a little bit of a bullshit cap on when we think towards the content in which we're consuming and the people that we're interacting with. And I think that in terms of how the 60-year-olds nowadays can view the news and won't, maybe not Jeff, but 60-year-olds nowadays, old timers, as our young Gen Z calls them. But you guys are able to view the news and not really make too many of your, I don't want to say your own second guesses, but you take what's at face value more as accurate, or as more accurate than our generation, who kind of has the first hat of, oh, you're bullshit, and then prove me why you're correct, rather than just taking the face value as correct and going off of that. So I think that if we can kind of embed that perspective into the AI world, in that it's not like you take the hallucinations as face value and then you go from there and try to negate them. No, it's you're taking these outputs that are given to you at a fraction of the time, at a fraction of the processing speed, whatever it may be, and you automatically kind of go with the guise or the perspective of, hey, this may be complete crap. How is it accurate, instead of going from the flip side? And I think that obviously I don't think that my generation's well equipped any better than your guys' generations to kind of solve the AI
Aren't you the
problem.
generation that digested Tide Pods?
I don't know if that was me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying that the sophistication of you know, truth is gone, right? There's no objective truth, and you could argue that it never existed. But the sophistication now, you're right. The boomers are more likely to trust local news than they are to trust other sources. But everybody is, I mean, your generation is doing shit that they see on TikTok that endangers their own lives, these challenges, or they're digesting Tide Pods, you know, and it's like that kind of thing is like, I agree that generally they're skeptical of institutional authority, but they are not skeptical of their peer authorities in the same way. And I think that peer phenomena is not unlike a mob mentality. It drifts and flows.
I disagree with that. I think that we do carry the mob mentality with us, and we actually value the mob mentality higher than the institutional knowledge, in which it's the flip side from you guys, in which you guys value the institutional knowledge more than some of the mass hysteria stuff that comes up, such as the Tide Pods and the any chaotic little trends that go on TikTok and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you there, Jeff. I think our generation, and maybe I'm just super gullible and super young and unknowledgeable and stuff like that, but I think that there is kind of a little bit more of a drastic slope with our generation than other generations, in that our experts, or our top 1%, are going to be pretty damn smart, but there's going to be a lot more of that kind of middle range of people that inevitably are taking up the bus driving jobs and the shop baggers and stuff of the current generation that we see in society. But there's going to be a lot more, because we have a lot more of the kind of average or the middle set people, rather than in comparison. That may be a generic answer, but
I think that's a great answer. And I'm gonna echo Ilaria's comment in the chat, that in defense of young people, they are also very good at connecting with people online and rally around causes with the groups they believe in. And Max is a fantastic example of that. And I do think that there is a sense of this younger generation, they won't put up with the same shit that my generation did, that Darren said.
Yeah,
I
we said that, Haley. Us millennials said the
We
same
didn't do
thing.
we didn't do shit.
When we were Max's age, we said the same thing. Obama comes along, everything's going to change, and
Oh.
we're the ones that let the social networking absolutely destroy lives, suicide, everything like that.
Guys,
So
our
sorry,
bad.
Max.
I have
apologize.
kids that are 20 years old, and so I will say that they do approach the world differently. They're not as susceptible to the definition of the career path or the life path that they think the establishment wants them to follow in terms of consumption and in terms of the way they live their lives. And I applaud that 100%. And I think that we're doing this because this is the way it should be done never occurs to them. And I think they think that they re-examine and challenge every idea. That is the hope for the future. If that holds true with the next younger generation after them, then we may be able to navigate this extremely tricky pathway.
I just want to point out, sorry, I just want to point out that it was the youth movement and the protests in the mid to late 60s that ended the Vietnam War. One of the only reasons. And, so regardless of the labels of which, whether millennials, that generation is the baby boomers now, but they were the youth then, and they certainly affected change. I think it's the youth of today that's going to bring about changes in how voting results are going to affect gun control. And I think because they're the ones being killed in colleges across the country, number one killer of kids is guns. So it's going to be that generation that grew up with these drills inside their schools that they're going to affect change. So I don't underestimate the next generation.
Darren, you had something to say?
No, I'm going to let Max. Max has been trying to get in for a wee while.
All right, Max, over to you.
No, I just had a question, and I might get some hate with this one.
Bring it on.
On kind of in the realm of natural selection, and I know this is a very, very rough topic that I could be traversing myself into right now. But there's also the devil's advocate perspective of me that the human brain is one of, if not the most powerful weapon that is available in today's humanity. And if artificial intelligence is essentially created to replace human intelligence, especially at the lower levels and on the efficiency levels, then why are we getting so mad when people that I don't want to say aren't reaching up to their intellectual ability, but where their jobs are not replicate, or they're not, if the human brain is so powerful and you have positions that are very monotonous and trivial, and those are still being done.
Because everyone needs a reason for
existence. Poverty, inequality, illness, drug abuse, mental health. It's not just people not achieving their potential, Max.
If you ask people who they are, or if you ask a Hindu person who they are, they basically look at themselves as a variety of things. I'm a father, I'm a plumber, I'm a husband, I'm a brother, they have all these different definitions. Take away, if you ask an American what they are, first thing they'll do is tell you their profession. That the sense of self-worth comes from that. Whether you are working on a road paver or you are working in an AI lab, you still define yourself by that. And if those jobs are taken away, we need to give them something else. I'm not saying that you're right, that's always changed, but we have to give them something else to think about who they are and what their value is to the people around them.
I agree 100%. And I was talking more about the re-education and the retraining platforms. So when these jobs are lost, such as the trivial and the mundane ones, such as the drivers and the baggers and everything else like that, those will be the people that are lost will have to be forced into re-educating themselves to fit into this new time period, which will bring back
not just
the
menial jobs,
creativity
though. It's law. Lawyers are being replaced. Accountants
eventually
are being replaced. Doctors are being
replaced. White collar decimation is what's going to happen. So I mean, that's
so you went to school for 12 years to be a doctor, and then suddenly you're not needed. if the AI doctor is better than you. So I'm saying that in that eventuality, we have got to have a plan for what to do with those people and how to make them feel valued. Otherwise, we will have a social collapse.
And we're already seeing that. I think we're already seeing, even before AI came along, with the, the smash and grabs is a whole thing now. It really, there's a little bit of a narrative, I think, particularly on the right, that's trying to make it seem a lot worse than it is and make it seem like there are horrible crime in the cities. But there are smash and grabs, and there are more smash and grabs than there were, that's a whole thing now.
Social contract breaking
I
down.
think it's breaking down already, and it is because, and where people get frustrated when they see the videos, people running in and grabbing iPhones. I hear comments, I read them and saying, "Oh yeah, they're gonna go take those phones and sell them and feed their family." Right? And there's this anger from like people who do follow a social contract against people like that, and then they happen to look a certain way, and that continues to divide and create racism and poverty and all of these things. It exasperates that. I do want to echo what Heather said, though.
Yeah, Ilaria's got a really nice point as well there as well. You just read my mind there, Haley. Ilaria and Heather have got some really nice points to maybe, but we could discuss.
Well, go ahead, and then we'll get to Heather.
Yeah, so it actually ties in. I was going to say to Max, as he's currently at uni, he's a perfect question, then to everybody else. And I'd like to hear from Ilaria, because I know she's got children, to Heather as well. So I think if you want to take Heather, I'll take Ilaria's and throw it out here. So Ilaria says they definitely question the system, meaning Gen Z, the younger ones. My son has been saying for a while that what he learns in school is useless. And I think probably all of us felt that when we were at school anyway, right? He knows a lot of science, but the difference is that her son spends hours on YouTube learning it. So something has sparked science inside of him. And because of the ability to go online and to watch it, this kid's probably operating a few years above his peers in that class. Now, I wouldn't be doing that shit because I hated science at school, but literature and stuff, my God, give me more and more and more and more and more. So it comes down to, I was going to ask Max about college, university, but I'm actually thinking, and this is more difficult from a school perspective, but are we just wasting young people's time? Yes. Sitting them in a classroom, getting them to learn subjects that they're never going. I don't know whether this, again, in school, I don't want to exclude them, but they should be able to be self-paced, should be able to learn. But I mean, Max, should you be going to uni to learn business or could you teach yourself it in 6 months on using ChatGPT, go into a business, set up your own business and do it? It's not customized for you, Maxie. That's my argument. You're probably learning a lot of shit you'll never end up actually using in your own business. But if you know, or you have some sort of roadmap that you would need to follow or at least create, or ChatGPT creates the roadmap, here's what you want to do, here's what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. We talk about what do we do with those who aren't employed? Heather says, what happens to the majority when the majority of jobs will be replaced? That is the question. And this is what I think we're discussing. But yeah, sorry, Max, I'm going to ask you, is it a waste of time what you're doing, bro?
So obviously there's, and I've said this a couple times, but there's a couple different ways of answering that. I think nowadays, as it's currently structured, education is not really about actually learning anymore. It's more about the structures that are in place to make the parents' lives easier, and the structures that you need to develop a little bit of consistency in work ethic and ethics and morals and stuff like that. But it's really not optimized to have the most efficient learning process. However, on the flip side, I do think, and I look around myself, and me included, I think a lot of people can benefit from having that structure in their life. In the other ways, if you had imbalances where people were, this guy, he grew up and his father, his mother put a guitar in front of him, and then now he's will play for 16 hours a day because he doesn't have school anymore. But what's the impact of that? Yeah, he may not have the morals and the structure and stuff, but you best believe he's the best goddamn guitarist in the world right now. And it's kind of that I think, not to get political at all, but when you I know everyone on here has probably listened to Jordan Peterson a couple times, but when you give people freedom, and they've tested it out in the Scandinavian cultures, when you give people freedom of choice, especially in the workplace, they tend to go back to their most natural ways. And I think that a similar kind of effect would happen in the school place if you did decide to take the school system down, in which people would find their true callings, because some people would just be doing the same things every day and would be able to sit on a phone and just scroll, 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 scroll. But then the other people would pick up that guitar, pick up the piano, or start emailing people, and then would become Chase Diamond, or would start building ebooks, and they'd become Justin Welsh or whatever it may be. But I do agree that a lot of people do need that structure, and at least need to be put on the right path before they know which direction that they want to go off and do stuff in.
Well, I love that comment. And, who I think does it really well, and of course, I've not been in the French system, but I really like how the French organize their education system. I don't know if Cindy is still on, but I believe she went through some of the French education system. She's on my team. But what they do is they help kids decide earlier on, like in 14, 15, 16, if they want to go into a trade. So you can customize it a little bit more. Like, say you want to go into an apprenticeship and you want to, I don't know, you want to really go and learn aviation, then you can go start early and go into that. And so you don't go into like our American system, which is like used to be more liberal arts, humanities. We wanted to give you like a more well-rounded education, but I don't think that well-rounded education, that the humanities courses have evolved enough. Really, they're not relevant to people today, to kids today.
What do you do with an English degree, Jeff?
Yeah, what do you do with an English
Can I
degree?
say that there was a poll of Fortune 500 company CEOs, and they said, what is the least effective predictor of somebody's job performance, whether they'll be able to do the job they're hired for? And the answer that they got back, the most dominant answer, was whether they have a degree in it or not. So the degree itself, the thing is that we have to recognize that this institution that we have is built, it's an institution, it has inertia in it. And so as an institution, it's functioning for goals that are 100 years old. And recently, in the last 50 years, having been a college professor, I know that college professors' salaries are flat to going down. And most tenured professors, a lot of states are trying to get rid of tenure because they don't want to pay for tenured professors. So most of the people teaching in institutions that charge ridiculous amounts of money are adjunct faculty. And in Georgia, adjunct faculty make about $15,000 a year. So who could actually support themselves on that? They can't afford it. So secondly, so I'm just saying that the education system is faltering because the bureaucracy behind it, the administrators in educational institutions, are the ones who have all the power and all the money. It's the same thing that's going on in society broadly, that they're selling a product and the product is outdated, but they create the illusion that you can't succeed without their product. It's not.
What do you think, Jeff? What do you think on the Pareto's principle that Elon Musk just did and kind of swept out Twitter or the X and kind of placed that on the same guise as the education system and maybe a couple other niches as well? But what do you think about the idea that in reality, 20% of the teachers are actually collaborating or combining for 80% of the knowledge that students are getting?
100%
and that
true.
There are a lot of the fluff that needs to be taken out because they're not pumping the same productivity as the
So
rest.
I think, so a lot of institutions like Google and stuff like that don't require a degree. You just have to pass a test in order to get a job there. That's good. But I think that the absurdity of the institution that I just described is that Accounting 101 costs the same amount as the postgraduate class. So, and the one with the best professor costs the same amount as the worst professor. So I think what will come in the near future is the breakdown of this Ivy Tower thing, where faculty that have great followings and are successful will become free agents and be able, so that you will be able to build your educational roadmap and take classes wherever you want with whomever you want, and you will pay what the market demands you pay for those educational experiences. I would support that today.
Education should be free though, Jeff. Let's not forget that either.
Yeah,
and it is in Europe.
Well, I think
it is in Scotland. In Scotland, it is. Yeah, other European.
So it's not free, but who pays for it should also determine who benefits from it, right? So So
The government benefits from
the
it.
government benefits,
In
and
Germany, yeah, you have two tracks.
Not
You
in the
have
West, though.
gymnasium, which is their high school, and you can, go into the trades, or you can go on to uni, and it's all free. But people decide early on in their teens which way they want to go. But they need the tradespeople because they're the ones building houses and infrastructure. I stayed in Switzerland, a little town in Switzerland, and for 2 weeks I watched this house being built by these great carpenters and their apprentices. They had their uniforms. They brought in prefab structures, and it was just this whole system. And within 2 weeks, they practically built the whole house. I mean, it was just,
But that's what I'm saying.
It was a classic Swiss chalet. So
But it's got to be valued. That's whereby we value a stupid degree. My English degree, I love literature. For me, it was a piece of piss. Obviously, what am I going to go in? Maybe do teaching or journalism or something like that. It's quite a general degree in that regard. Lovely stuff, but why is that more highly valued than a trade? Well, it shouldn't be. If anything, I mean, the trades are getting a lot more shit done
Well,
than
and
the English teachers
that's
are.
new in our generation, though. That it didn't. I don't think it was always like that. And when we were going, because Darren and I are the same age. We're 37. I'm calling us out, bro. But
I'm 39, so you're actually younger than me.
9? Wow, I'm sorry. You told me 37. I don't think you
I'll
lied.
take 37.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, so we're roughly the same generation though. And I remember this whole push about don't go and do trades, go and be a college, go get a college degree. That was like the number one level of success. Like that's how you check the box, you go get a degree, and then you're gonna get yourself a spouse and then 2.5 kids and a white picket fence, right? Remember that? And then there was a guy, and I can't remember his stinking name now, Joe something, who was like the king of dirty jobs, and he started this whole thing on National Geographic to try to battle this stigma against, in America especially, against trades jobs. And now look what happened. I've got people of my church, they are consultants, they do contractors and stuff. And man, it's time. Are you telling me it's time to wrap up? Is that your
No,
time?
I'm saying, I've said it a couple times. I'm saying that whenever I've done that, it's been about like, it's a very cyclical nature of a lot of things in society.
Yeah, and I'll say that
Can't find
you're
trade.
basically arguing our point, which is, or my point anyway, that AI is going to replace all these jobs. We need to learn how to do basic things that humans value other humans doing. Number one, building shelter, taking care of and growing food in a way that is artisanal, because all of the other stuff will be taken care of. And so local economies, barter economies, the cottage industry that happened before large-scale industrial revolution is what I believe we will ultimately
But
return
Jeff,
to.
we're still innately humanly lazy a wee bit. So it is when AI and machines can sow the seeds into the ground, can harvest them, as things already can, like when there's not that purpose for us to do it. I think there's a wider question here, actually. I agree with everything you're saying, but I think it's slightly simplistic to think about building shelter, being able to feed ourselves. We're inherently going to want something or to do that for us. So there'll be naturally things to do that for us. So where do we actually sit at the end of the day? Is it on our asses scrolling our mobile phones? Is that all we
Possibly.
are for?
What is our role?
What is our
religion was the opiate of the masses. Then it became the cell phone was the opiate of the masses. But in the future, just free time can be the opiate of the masses, and people can get lazy. But what I argue is that it's really the only alternative, because humans need to feel valued by their community, by their families, and by themselves. And unless we have something, if everything else is taken care of, yes, that might be true, but what are we going to do with our time? And that is a big question that we're not really grappling with, but we should, because it's coming. And if we know how to build shelter and raise our own food and provide for ourselves, then when AIs turn against us, we can retreat into the woods where there's no Wi-Fi signals.
Okay, there's one last question. I know we're a little bit over time. If you guys are able to, Cindy has a great question. I want to ask it. And I think it's kind of a good way to wrap up today, right? Can't do it all today, guys. All right, from Cindy. This is for everybody who agrees with AI replacing our jobs, which is more or less everyone on some degrees. What if AI replaced your own job so that the world didn't need you anymore? How would you feel and what would you do about it? We're going to go over to Max first. Over to you, Max.
I have the contrarian perspective here, in that if it's super easy to replace your job, then either somebody else would have had it, or it wasn't that, I don't want to say important, but important to society than it is to you. When you're a true expert, and it's brought back to the kind of point that I started the argument with, the true experts, when the fluff gets all picked up, yeah, the cyclical, little slope again, then. But the when the levels get brought up, when the barriers of entry get brought up, and everyone kind of gets leveled out in the midsection, that's when the true experts emerge again. And if you're not above that first kind of level up, or you're finding yourself in the mix, and one AI feature kind of takes you out and puts you into the masses, then I'm on the contrarian side that you probably weren't the most expert in the first place. Sorry, but.
All right, go ahead, Kurt.
Yeah, so I'm a creative guy. So I've seen all the technology advancements in software either make my task simple or enable me to do things I couldn't do before. So I've seen all these waves over 30 years happen. I haven't been replaced yet because I think creativity and being a creative individual, there's an enigmatic appeal that has to do with your spirit and your soul and the human brain, that as the cream rises to the top, I still believe that individuality through creativity wins out over technology. So yes, jobs are being, I'm so pissed off at like software like Canva. It's like, yeah, anybody can do what I've been doing for 20 years, just, in Canva. You don't have to graduate from art school or anything. So it's the race to the bottom. But at the end of the day, creativity is still needed. I think people who use those tools who aren't creative, they're hackers and posers. And I think creativity will win.
Right answer. So AI can't replace your 30 years of experience. That
I technically,
go ahead.
Yeah, that special I would agree. But Kurt, at the moment, Canva brings in AI generate button, and it brings out the kind of designs that you would do. Now you're right; it wouldn't exactly be Kurt Doty, but it is a cheap alternative for somebody who doesn't want to pay your very handsome hourly rate. I am sure, my friend, because you're experience, you're the kind of guy I would pay for. But those who can't afford to, is that barrier entry in. Listen, I want to go to the question that Cindy kindly asked. So if it replaced my own job, so the world didn't need me anymore, I would come back to it, and I don't want to sound like an arrogant motherfucker here, but I like the way that I am. Not all the time, but most of the time.
Too. I
think I do have a unique personality. I don't think an AI is going to take me over. As a teacher, the crap, to Max's point a bit as well, the bad teachers will get replaced. Absolutely. If you can get better outcomes through AI, absolutely. But I think that for a long time, for a few generations at least, we are still going to want that human interaction. Look at the pandemic, all having Zoom calls. My God, it's nice to be in an in-person meeting. This is really good. But imagine the 5 of us in the audience in the room together, feeling one another's energy. That's special, and that can't be replaced. So if it replaced my own job, it wouldn't. And I'm not being arrogant there. I would find a way, like I am, to be using AI to help me. I don't think I'm replaceable. But if it did, how would I feel? Of course, pretty shitty. But I would take on my friend Jeff here and say, what would I do? Sit around and get creative, do what I want, play more guitar, make more love, make more food, all the good shit. That's what I would do. We will adapt and move with it. So look, it's not, the debate's over. So look, it's not going to destroy humanity, but we need to be very fucking careful. We need to seriously be careful about AGI, ASI singularity, and make sure we do have these discussions and we do have these bits in place, because it could be very dangerous. Thank you for your question, Cindy.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that I'm not just my job. So I have relationships, I have communities that I'm part of, and and I will find some way to be useful, even if the profession that I have been working in for the last 40 years is taken over by AIs. I'll find something else that I can do to be useful.
Love that. Kurt, Max, any final thoughts before we end the day?
Beautifully said.
I
Beautifully
think
done.
that's a.
Four
I don't know if
snaps
Kurt
in the
has
Z
any thoughts.
formation.
That's
Oh, snap.
Oh, and then Cindy had a follow up.
Good way
I
to
don't
end.
think they will pay people anymore if they can use AI. I don't think they will pay people anymore if they can use AI.
UBI now.
Yeah, but who's
Well, the
they?
same-
Who's
The
they?
same thing happened with stock photography. I mean, as soon as there was a database for people to steal it from without having to pay people for their stock photography, I mean, that's what happened anyway. And I think that industry is definitely coming to a closure. The stock photography industry, I'm sorry to say it, but adios. If you're still making money off that, you're going to get output by AI. But in the same place, it only makes it so that the the true experts like Kurt, are only going to be shown and will arise from the dust even more, because I mean, when the dust settles, it's going to eat up an industry, yeah, but it's going to put a whole lot of more money in the true experts' pockets, which is another discussion within itself. But
I mean, and there's so many topics that we didn't cover. We didn't really go into cloning. There's so many other topics that I think that for the next debate, and we actually have a meeting on Monday. I hope you guys can make it. We'll talk about what the next one will be. We'll have a little bit more niched topic. That sounds good. But hey guys, this was freaking amazing. Highlight of my week, really stellar. I've loved it. We've gotten lots of great feedback from folks all over online. I will make sure that this recording gets displayed. I'll send it to you guys first so we can edit it. But honestly, what a great way to end the day. Thank you guys so much. Round of
Yeah,
applause for all of
you
y'all.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate
all
you.
you guys.
And then
It's
don't
been a
forget,
pleasure.
if y'all haven't gotten your impact ticket, go get your impact ticket. And GR8DB8, great debate, is your code for 20% off. So thank you guys. Have a wonderful
Thank you. Bye.
evening.
Have
Bye,
a great
Max.
day,
Bye, Darren. Bye,
everybody.
Kurt.
peace and
Thank
love,
you,
peeps.
Thanks to all the visitors too.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Haley. Thanks, Kurt. Thanks.